Welcome to the second session. I hope you've all had a good week and had a chance to have a look at some of the paperwork that we sent through last week in readiness for this week. Like last week, please do pop any questions in the chat function, and I'll stop periodically to pick up and answer those if I haven't answered them as we go along. And a reminder that we'll be circulating the presentation and the case study post this session, so please don't worry about that. Any other things to cover base? Nope, I don't think so. So again, just use the chat function as of when. The pre-break session is going to be an opportunity for you guys to work individually, and then post-break we are going to put you in some breakout rooms to discuss. So do bear with us. This will be an opportunity for you to have a think about your organisations, your audiences, by yourselves, which we get very little time to do on a practical level when we're in the office or working from home. And as I said, the second part is an opportunity to discuss the things that we will be covering. So what is today's session? Again, very simply, understanding who your core audiences are, understanding the demographic profile of your organisation, comparing these profiles with your local borough data using the documents that I've sent through, supporting you guys and working with others to identify audiences to work with going forward based on this data, and having a quick look at some potential barriers for these audiences to attend or volunteer or work for you guys, and ways we could overcome these. Today's session is all about data you have, data that's out there, how to use this data to inform going forward. So as I said last week, if you like data, this is the session for you. I am a data child. I like looking at data. I'm strange. I realise that this is actually my favourite part when I get to look at other people's data. So I do apologise, but it is a really important step for reasons that we'll come on to in a second. If you don't like data, it is a necessary evil, I'm afraid, that you have to endure to enable you guys to think strategically about how you can become a more diverse and inclusive organisation. So hopefully the next sort of 2 hours or so won't be too painful for you guys, and you'll be able to follow along and take it back to your staff, your organisations, about what we've covered today, and discuss with them the ways forward. So we're going to start really simply on why looking at data is important. Just a really quick refresher. Everyone will have said something slightly different on the doodle poll, but it's important for us to think about why we look at the data, why we tell people, our Board of Trustees, our funders, why it's important to look at the data to go forward. We capture this data via visitor surveys, evaluation forms, consultation, staff surveys. However we capture it, how we use that data, why is it important? So, having a quick look at what people said, we have got a few of you saying informs experience programs on offer, a couple saying it informs decisions about which audiences we should target, a few bringing insights to make your organisation more resilient. You're absolutely right. There is lots of reasons. It wasn't, like last week, it wasn't a test. Most of you will say it's more than one reason, and that's absolutely fine. For me, it comes down to two main things. Firstly, it's around supporting existing and potential funding opportunities. I find having the data to hand greatly improves, and I do mean significantly improves, as somebody who writes applications and reads applications. If you're able to draw on data, it gives you credit, gravitas, as it were, to why you want to work with certain audiences, and it gives you the backup that you require, the evidence that you need to support your case. Most funders these days, unsurprisingly, want you to have knowledge of not only your current data, current audiences within your bids, but highlighting which new audiences. So why have you picked them? And this data allows you to give that answer, as you know, your reason why. It also helps to demonstrate impact as you go through the project, and sort of report back as you go at the end of the project. Excuse me. And it also helps advocate work to your funders, stakeholders, Board of Trustees, and build your case for support, whether it is that you're working with a new audience or the reason to go back to a previous audience you've worked with and work with them again. And then the other part that I find sort of reasons, it makes you a more resilient organisation. It brings a huge amount of insight that makes your organisation more resilient. I'm talking in terms of staff time, where you put your resources, so that's not only your time but your money, budgets, and you know, let's face it, funding applications also take time to do, so it's giving you that reason to put that application in. It also helps you to get better informed about what experiences you want to have on offer, and also the ones that you could cut potentially if they are not working for your audiences, or they're not coming because you're not offering something. What can you change up? And lastly, just knowing who engages with you and who has the potential to engage you as potential visitors helps you build your case to diversify your audience base. So nice and simple small test this morning, which you'll be pleased to know you've all passed. You're all awake, so that's fabulous. We're now going to start with you guys. Planning for inclusion. I usually break this down when I work one-to-one with organisations and museums into 2 steps. So we're going to start with the first step, and then after the break we will go into the second step. So understanding your museum and your existing visitors. There's no real easy way for you guys to do this in groups. So view the next 30 minutes or so as an opportunity for you to explore your museums, write things down. That is a very important step, not just thinking about it, but writing it down, committing thoughts to paper, as it were. So, first challenge of this morning, checking that you're all awake for the second time early on at only 10:20. We're going to look at your audience profile data. When I say we, hopefully most of you have been able to look at your audience data. If not, please don't worry. This is an opportunity to have a think. Most museums of your size will have, you know, you're on the ground, you'll have a relatively good idea of who your visitors are and how they can be broken down, but this is just an opportunity to define them. So you will need your data for this activity, and you will need page, let me check, I think it's page 2 of your additional handout. So we will be starting with that. And what I'd like you to do is just spend the next 5-10 minutes, if needed, looking at who your audiences are, thinking about them, defining them as in categories, so who they are. So more often than not, this is demographics. The nature of their visit, if you know why they're coming, what they're doing whilst they're at your museum. Are they coming for specific activities? When are they coming? Are they weekenders? Are they during the week? And lastly, if known, around satisfaction. So what do they enjoy doing whilst they're with you? Are they visiting your permanent exhibitions or an event, etc.? On the screen, you'll see I have put a pre-COVID audience profile. Sometimes we call this, we start talking about when we're defining audience profiles as in audience segmentation. Some companies have very fancy names for how they segment their audiences. For organisations of your size, using those words to your Board of Trustees often takes 20 minutes of explanation rather than the actual point of who that audience is. So I just want you to think very simply about grouping your audiences together. Most museums will unsurprisingly have 2 to 3. So we're talking about your general weekday visitor and what that profile will look like. You might have a slightly different profile for your weekenders, whether that be family or a different age group. And then more often, and particularly pre-COVID, we're talking about a schools audience as well. Now that may have changed because of COVID and when you've opened and what your online looks like, and you can do either or, that's fine, but have a look at your data. Think about actually using that handout to write down who your key audiences are. As I would say, I wouldn't expect you to have more than about 3. If you do, fantastic. You'll just have to mark it in a different colour pen going down so that you know who your audiences are. Does that make sense to everybody, what we're going to be doing? Can I have some nods? Couple of nods, excellent. You're all with me this morning, fantastic. So I'm going to give you, I'll check in about 5 minutes to see how you're getting on. If you've already done the activity, perfect, just put either a thumbs up in the chat or put a wave at me or get my attention somehow. I will be monitoring, but just have 5 minutes, I'll check in, see how we're doing, and if you need another couple of minutes, that's absolutely fine. Hopefully slightly interesting. As I said, most of you guys will have had white, predominantly females, sometimes over 55 age category as your predominant. That's not surprising in terms of museums everywhere. And then this will take you less time. Mostly because there's less, you'll have probably less data to hand, and also you'll know it, as it were, because you are much smaller organisations. So now is the chance to define your workforce. And when I say workforce, this is members of staff and volunteers, so paid staff and volunteers. And in a similar way, have a think about age, gender, ethnicity, disabilities, combinations, and try and group together what your core profile, workforce profiles are. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to do this, probably no more than 5, as I said, because it will be slightly easier, and most of you, I'm making the assumption, have less data to pull from, which we will talk about later, don't worry. Again, put your thumbs up in your videos, so, or turn the screens back on once you're done, so that I know you're just about ready. But I'll give you a couple of minutes to do this activity. It probably rings true with a number of your organisations, it's probably fair to say. Again, you may find that you're not collecting data, you might not have access to the data, but having a think as we go through today, but also as we start talking about workforce diversity, the things that you can change. If you can't change your trustees, funnily enough, some people want to desperately but can't, having a look at your volunteer profile may be the things that you can help to change as you become more diverse, more inclusive. I reiterate, it's a journey, it doesn't happen overnight. So it's about the things that you can change or actions you can put into place to make those changes, even on a small scale. So I hope that exercise was useful. So let's get started. Defining your non-users. Now, at this stage, we're not talking about whether you want to engage your audiences in a volunteer role, potential members of staff, audiences, working with them to diversify collections. We're not at that stage yet. At the moment, it is just about talking about your non-users and who they are in your local area. So you'll have your data to hand. It's not rocket science, I promise. What I'll give you is maybe 2 minutes just to have a quick look at the data, for those of you who haven't had a look at your local borough data now, just to have a quick look so that you can start talking with your colleagues. You'll actually be made to talk this afternoon. Well, sorry, this second part of the morning session, you'll be made to talk. So have a look at the data. I'll give you 2 minutes just to have a look and so we can discuss. I'll give you till 5:30. Yep, perfect. I mean, my skill sharing abilities have improved. So the top barriers that are discussed is generally, and this is taken from the Taking Part survey and also the audience agency's museum audience report in 2019. So those are the sources. They're in your pack, so you can link to. Biggest thing is about lack of interest and time as being a barrier, cost being a significant barrier, not knowing what the offer was, what the offer is also a significant barrier. The 2019 audience agency report that acknowledged it was down to poor communication and marketing were deterrents for not attending, and pointed out that families are especially influenced by word of mouth. So that's something to bear in mind. And another barrier being ease and difficulty of getting to the museum, disability and attitudinal, which we all discussed in our group. I'm pretty certain that's the things that you were talking in your group as well. There are some more links within the presentation notes, so do have a look at some of those, and I will be getting you to read one of the core reports, as it were, after this session. But what I'd like to move on to is talking around monitoring and evaluation. And this is just to flag up conversations that we've had previously that you might not be capturing all of the information, and that's absolutely fine. Within your handouts, you will have some links to example reports, whether they be visitor surveys or equality opportunities, so staffing, volunteer, to start capturing that data. So please do use the links within the additional handouts to get that information. But if you would like further support going forward in looking at your framework, please do get in touch, because that's a whole different conversation, and I am more than happy to help in any way I can. But yeah, do get in touch and we can have a conversation about what's realistic for you guys to capture for your organisation going forward. So just to flag up monitoring and evaluation, because as you might have noted, well, we discussed things that we might not be capturing, and that's fine, but it's around thinking about how we could capture going forward. Okay, and what I would like to do now is, via the wonderful world of the web, I am hopefully just about to share a video. Kirsty from Hall Place did the exercise around looking at data and what programs they could do as a result. Unfortunately, Bexley very rudely won't let her use Zoom, so she can't join the session to tell you herself. What she has very, very kindly done is done a video for you guys. So what I would like to do is hopefully share that.
And Elizabeth for letting me give this presentation. Sorry I can't do it in person, as it were, over the internet, but by powers of technology, I hope this will work, and I hope the sound quality is okay. So for those of you that haven't heard of us, Hall Place and Gardens is a Grade 1 listed museum and historic house in South East London, in the London Borough of Bexley. We have award-winning gardens around us and a visitor centre, which houses our education room used for schools, our tea room, and also our shop. Now, we used to be, prior to 2000, a local authority funded museum. Then from 2000 to 2017, we were an independent charitable trust. Towards the end of 2017 though, and 2016, it was getting financially quite difficult. And the decision was made that we would go back to being local authority funded from 2017. So we went back in-house, and we've been local authority funded since then. So doing a little bit of the flip reverse of everyone else. As part of this though, we wanted to ensure that what we were doing was meeting the demands and priorities of the council, because councils and local authorities are very, very different in the way they are run compared to an independent charitable organisation. And one of the ways we looked at this was looking at our health and wellbeing strategy for Bexley. This was developed in 2017, and it allowed us to look at the scope of services that the council were offering and see how we could develop links into this and what we could provide with what we had, and also linking into other departments in the council, which was brilliant because we were kind of the new kids on the block, and we were wanting to sort of ingratiate ourselves into the council and you know, show that we can be a part of this, and this is what we have to offer, and this is how we can meet what you're already doing, work with you as a group. And Rachel was brilliant at kind of talking us through these things and what we could do. The other piece of information we looked at was the Ageing Well strategy. So this was developed in 2018. And from this we learned that there wasn't a lot of provision for, in a cultural context, for people in later life living in the borough. And we wanted to sort of tap into this because obviously we have all these fantastic resources of a museum collection, historic building, staff who, you know, are used to teaching children and working with groups, running events, etc., all the things that we do day to day. As part of this document, it did tell us that there are estimated to be around 2,890 people living with dementia in the borough, and this, as in all areas, is expected to rise by at least 10% over the next couple of years. So we wanted to see what we could do using our resources to help people living with dementia and Alzheimer's particularly. And the London Museum Development Programme was fantastic because it offered the Strong and Safe funding, or Safe and Strong funding, which Rachel talked to us about, and Yvette Shepherd as well. And we were really lucky that we put in our application and we were awarded £5,000 from them, which was fantastic for allowing us to try out these pilot projects basically to see if these things would work, because it was all new, because we didn't have any money available to do this. So the things that we offered were, we have this blank space within our visitor centre that you can see here, and we had this boring brick wall, and we decided to put a display board up there. Here it is being built, and the end product is here, where we did various displays. This one shows a photographic exhibition of the Great Storm in 1987, and this was done on the 30th anniversary. Really popular with our public. Obviously, lots of people remember it that are local. Our typical audience at Hall Place is like many English Heritage and National Trust properties. It is the retired audience. And so this was fantastic because most of them remembered it. Even if they didn't live in the borough, they still remembered this storm very vividly and the damage that it caused. We also did a sort of 10 ways to beat the winter blues. We put up photographs of items from the museum collection, which were really popular with people. We've got a social history museum collection, so fantastic for engaging with people on sort of an everyday life, everyday level, which is brilliant. One of the other things we did is we went to one of our local care homes in the borough and did the Dementia Friends training. This was so valuable in giving us an insight into how the disease affects the brain, what it's like living day to day with the disease, and how you can support people who are living with dementia and Alzheimer's. There is a couple of people in this picture that are our front of house staff, and so useful for them, as they obviously are meeting people every day and they are the first point of contact for our visitors on site. So really useful and insightful for us, and we are dementia friends, which is fantastic. One of the other things we looked at was creating reminiscence teas. So we wanted to pilot a session where we invited individuals but also care homes to come to Hall Place and talk about their memories of Christmas toys. We've got lots of toys in the museum collection, so we got these items out. We charged a nominal charge for tea and cake, half price for the carers. We had 45 people come, and it sold out within 2 days, so there was the demand there, which was fantastic. But we sort of underestimated some of the logistics involved, so this was really useful in teaching us about how you physically get 45 people in a building and how long it takes when there's lots of various care home buses arriving, ramps, wheelchairs, lifts, walking frames, all sorts of things. It takes a long time. And also, one of the tricky things for us being a grade 1 listed building is heating the building. Obviously, the average age of people that came was sort of 80, and they like to be lovely and warm, don't we all? So it was quite tricky doing that. And we planned lots of things, and actually we didn't get through them all. We had all these crafts we wanted to do with them, tea and cake, listen to Christmas music, offer them a photographic opportunity in front of our giant 20-foot real Christmas tree. But the reality was a lot of them just wanted to come to socialise, which was fantastic. It gave them that opportunity. It was in a nice, different but safe environment for them. And a lot of people, the care home staff were telling us, were acting differently in a more positive way. Some were eating, which they wouldn't normally do back in the care home. It would be a struggle to get them to eat. They were singing along to Christmas music. Some people were suddenly talking, which is something they wouldn't really normally do. Normally they'd be very reserved, very quiet. But these memories are long-term memories of childhood, which we know people living with dementia and Alzheimer's, these are the memories that stay the longest with them. It's your short-term memory that unfortunately you lose first. So it was wonderful hearing the care home staff saying, you know, they've come out of themselves. This is not how they would normally behave. It's so lovely to see them like this. And we had to accept that, you know, they were very happy. It was actually a really rewarding experience for us and taught us an awful lot. And it was okay that we didn't get through all the things that we had planned, because the people still had a lovely, lovely time. These are just a few of the objects that you can see. We've got our 1920s clockwork cat that came out on display. As part of this funding, we had some little plinths built to put in the middle of the tables to elevate the objects and keep them away, because we didn't actually allow people to touch them, but we did have handling items as well. Some doll's house furniture in there as well, a little cute retro sofa, probably come back in fashion. A little crazy car, and our 1960s roller skates. And that, as we said, was really popular. And we actually decided to run another session the following Christmas, which was equally popular and sold out. We did try an Easter one in between for our general public, but that didn't have the uptake. So really we, you know, were able to decipher from that Christmas and focusing on the care homes and targeting them is where the demand is. And they were very happy with the price of things, and we learned about the logistics of getting people there and what we actually try to plan to do within a session, which was good. One of the other things we created with the funding was 5 reminiscence boxes. You can see one here. This is our toys box, really, really popular. It's got lots of handling items in it, some scents that people can smell. Smell is incredibly evocative memory for people. Some photographs, and it does come also with a big folder which gives lots of information as to how to use this box and information about the objects in the box, so that the person who's leading the session feels fully prepared and able to run a session with the groups that they are with. And like I said, 5 of these boxes, they can be hired for £10 a week by anyone who wants to use them, whether that's individuals, carers, family members, care homes, etc. And we also give them to our libraries to use, which sit within the local authority, and they do run a few odd sort of dementia sessions as well, so they've used those as well and found them really useful. Another event that the council does is an Ageing Well event. This year it was very different. It was a virtual event because of COVID, but prior to that it's been in the council offices, and it's been basically you book a table and you can bring along information about your organisation and how you can offer services or support to people living well in the community. It's designed for the older generation, so later life. And yeah, just different ways that you can engage with them and let them know what's on offer for them. You get all sorts of people turn up. It's really great. You can chat to everyone. And we've been to it for 3 years now. And we offer sort of telling people about the events that we offer on site. So we have a really good events programme, normally, not during COVID. And we offer volunteering opportunities. which is great because often you do find it's the retired people that have the time to give as well. So that's really, really good. And just letting people know that we are a site that you can come to for free, walk out in the fresh air. Again, that's been so useful, our green spaces during COVID, we all know that. So yeah, it's been really useful. And again, like I said, they made it a virtual event this year, so people could link to our website and the things that we had on offer. And we found this is a really good way of highlighting that we are part of a council, which is great, and highlighting what we can offer to people for support if you are just later in life wondering what you can do, what's available to you, or if you are even a family member who's got a family who has someone living with dementia or Alzheimer's, and how we can support and offer different things to support them.
What I find really interesting about that case study is when I went to go and see them, we were talking predominantly about school children and how the museum could be working with school children, and actually looking at the data suggests that they were already working with 100% of primary school children and had all as 100% of the local schools visiting. So the point was, what else can we do with that audience? And actually it was the work with dementia and links into the council that meant that they could diversify and become more inclusive, and in fact really help them within the council logistics for advocacy. They wouldn't have known about that 2020 event had they have not started to work and build those links within the council. And they've also received small pots of funding following on from the Strong and Safe funding from the council, which again they wouldn't have received because the council is aware of the work that they are doing in this area. So it does all link, as it were. There are logical steps to looking at data and what impact that can have, and the potential just by starting from the basics and building links. So I hope that was useful. Does anybody have any questions about that? So we're at the end of today. We'll come on to questions in the last sort of 5-10 minutes. We are in the last 5-10 minutes. But before I lose you all, what I would like to share is the things to do for next session. You'll be very pleased to know that there will be no further information sheets that you have to look at ahead of next week. Next week is around developing inclusive programs. So we'll be looking at events, collections, programming. We'll be hearing from case studies from organised museums that are starting on their journey, along with core tips. But what I would like you to do between now and then is really have another look at data. I would like you to take that back to your organisations and really think about defining who your target 1, 2, 3 groups are going forward, because I can tell you now we have lots and lots of different case studies, and it's going to be really tempting to hear them being all really inspiring, going, yes, we can do that, we can do that, we can totally do that. Actually, what you need to think about is, when you're hearing the case studies in the next few sessions, is how can you use the tips that they're sharing for your own audiences going forward, even if they are different. So really having a clear idea and actually writing that down on the wonderful template which you had last year. So this is the template that you were sent last week. If anybody needs this again, do let me know. Just between the title and the box, what I would like you to do is write your 1, 2, 3 core audiences that you would like to be targeting. Give as much detail from the data that you are able to, so that when you're inspired by other case studies and then you come back to that, you go, no, I've got to focus. So it's really to help you focus on who you want to target. So that's your sort of task. And in order to help with that, I really encourage you to read Hurdles to Participation by Kids in Museums, which is on the further information within this week's additional handouts. Although it's targeted at around barriers for children and young people, the barriers and the logistics that it talks about transfer over to other audiences as well. So it really will get you into the mindset of thinking around how we overcome them, how we overcome some of these barriers, and then next week started the really fun part of how we can go about doing this work. So that's what I would like you to do.